So you guys remember we had on Marianne Williamson the other day, not too long ago. We asked her about her plans to run for president against Joe Biden in 2024. And one thing we asked her was, if you plan on running in the Democratic primary, would you then threaten to run as a third party candidate if you're unsuccessful in clinching the nomination? This is something that a lot of people in our audience were wondering, because a lot of people, myself included, were excited about the idea of Marianne Williamson, or a progressive like Marianne Williamson, running in 2024. However, we are a little bit pessimistic for obvious reasons that they will in any way be successful. Obviously, Bernie Sanders, with a massive, unprecedented movement behind him, still got screwed over by the Democratic Party twice, not once, but twice. And a lot of people, myself included, were disappointed by the fact that he did not continue his political revolution on past the primary. We were hoping he would harness the energy and the momentum surrounding his movement and the policies which he supported and run as a third party candidate. Again, continuing that resistance to the neoliberalism of the Democratic Party from outside of the Democratic Party. So again, for obvious reasons, this was a question we had for Marianne Williamson, and I decided to ask her about it on our show the other day. Let's quickly play that clip just so you guys can understand the foundation that we're coming at this from. And this inspired a question on the Bad Faith podcast with Shama Sawant that, kind of led to some pretty dramatic name calling and aggression from RBN directed at Brianna Joy Gray for completely misguided reasons, in my opinion. But yeah, let's take a look here just so you guys know what we're talking about. And one of the big ones we got from our audience was the idea of, yes, they're excited about you running in the Democratic primary. They want someone to challenge Biden, whether it's you or another progressive. People want that. But there's also an awareness, I think, that the DNC is going to do anything and everything to stop any anti-establishment progressive. I mean, you just accurately described our system as a plutocracy. That's not going to stand in the Democratic Party. Even I still think it's worth pursuing regardless of that fact, but a lot of people are pessimistic about them treating you fairly, or any anti-establishment progressive option fairly. And for that reason, a lot of people were wondering if you would have any interest in pursuing a strategy known as a dirty break, which is if your attempt to secure the nomination is unsuccessful thanks to their efforts to rig it or to treat you unfairly. Is there any chance you would then pursue a third party challenge after the primary ends, continue this resistance to the corporate duopoly from outside of it?
When the Republican debates were happening, I think in 2016, and all those Republicans were up on the debate stage, one of the moderators said to Donald Trump, well, if you don't win the nomination, will you still support the Republican nominee? And you might remember what his response was. It was, depends on how you treat me.
Right.
And in retrospect, I think that's the right answer. I mean, this idea, the political parties aren't even mentioned in the Constitution, and this idea of the DNC and the RNC having the kind of power they have. By the way, Democrats tend to have a kind of codependent relationship with the DNC that the Republicans don't have with the RNC. The RNC in 2016 said, well, you can have Marco Rubio, you can have Jeb Bush, you can have John Kasich. And then there are left that said, we want Donald Trump. Here, people say, oh,
correct.
The DNC's bad. It's a private corporation.
Yeah.
Pretty clear as day right there. She reveals what her intentions are. And she literally, she just seems like the right strategy to me, right? And for people who are like, that's not explicitly saying that I will do a dirty break. Yeah. One, we're having a conversation. Two, she's making a clever point, drawing a comparison to how she will be different than Bernie Sanders, in the sense that we always say that Bernie Sanders should have had more of a backbone like Donald Trump, right? Oh, look, she is directly drawing a fucking parallel to the backbone that Donald Trump had, saying that was the right decision, saying that we should not have the deference to the DNC that we have, that's stupid, that it's a private corporation, and that's foolish, right? However, she still needs to, if she's planning on running in the Democratic primary at all, which she is, which we've already laid out the entire strategy for why that's way more successful, you kind of got to ease your way into those criticisms. You want to have evidence for each way along the road when you say, this is why I'm doing a dirty break with the Democratic Party. She's trying to go in good faith and say, hey, I don't know if they're going to cheat me, which she does know they're going to cheat her, right? But she's trying to still maintain an appeal for a broad audience. I think it's clever to you know, I think if you go in like full hog, like fuck the Democratic Party, like then you have no chance of winning over anybody who considers themselves a Democratic Party base, which you have to do if you're going to successfully take over the party. Do you know what I mean, Gavin? I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that was a pretty clear answer from Marianne Williamson. I don't know really how else to interpret that other than saying, yeah, of course, if they treat me unfairly, if they treat the movement unfairly and they, rig the process against us like they did to Bernie Sanders, then 100% I will consider doing a dirty break. Like that seemed clear as day to me. I don't really see how else to interpret that. And neither did Brianna Joy Gray, because you guys will also remember, and we spent yesterday's stream covering this. She had a conversation with Shahid Buttar, Shama Sawant, and one other progressive candidate whose name escapes me. They talked a little bit about Marianne Williamson's potential 2024 run. And Brianna asked Shama Sawant, well, you say you're in favor of the dirty break strategy. Marianne Williamson has said she would be interested in pursuing the dirty break strategy. What do you think about that? It was a pretty innocent question. She was basically just trying to get Shama's perspective on the matter now that we do have a progressive candidate who is suggesting that she will be open to this idea of doing a dirty break, running within the Democratic Party for the nomination, and in the event that she's unsuccessful, will run as a third-party candidate against the Democratic nominee. Which I thought was a perfectly reasonable question, totally, an interesting discussion to have for obvious reasons.
Especially given the fact that Shama just said that she would be interested in this challenger if they said they would do a dirty break, like seconds before Bree followed up and said she would. I mean, that was like that came out of Shama's mouth. She was saying, if only we had somebody that was willing to do this.
Exactly. Anyway, so I thought that was totally innocuous, and not just innocuous, but an obvious conversation to have, and perfectly reasonable, fair, and honest framing from Brianna Joy Gray. However, then last night, Zach, you sent me this on Twitter, something that really caught my eye. Here's the latest RBN video out. Brianna Joy Gray tells a bold-faced lie about Marianne Williamson's dirty break. So
High-class loyal.
Yeah, and then also suggesting that Brianna Joy Gray is somehow, her opinions aren't actually her legitimate opinions. It's just out of class loyalty, as one PMC to another. She's just, she's only doing this out of loyalty for the rich and the upper class or something, which is a ridiculous, mischaracterization of Brianna's opinion. And again, if Brianna supports Marianne Williamson running in 2024, like Zach and I do, then and you can disagree with that, that's fine. But I just don't see why you have to chalk it up to class loyalty, as if Brianna has been anything other than absolute comrade, someone who has, over and over again advocated for working class people and the rights of the working class in general. So I think that's absolutely ridiculous off the bat. And also, to say that it's a bold-faced lie, to say that Marianne Williamson was interested in a dirty break, that's just not true. That in and of itself is a bold-faced lie. To say that she said a bold-faced lie is itself a bold-faced lie. All she did was say, hey, it seems like Marianne Williamson is interested in a dirty break. What do you think about that, Shama Sawant? In no way is that dishonest.
No, absolutely not. What's dishonest is taking somebody who has done nothing but demonstrate their leftist credentials. So basically what RBN is doing is exactly what Cenk Uygur and TYT did, right? Of just, for whatever reason, deciding that they can challenge Brianna Joy Gray's lefty card, right? This is something that she talked about the other day with Glenn Greenwald, and they both kind of snickered at it. He was like, I think it's kind of amusing that you can be like Bernie Sanders' press secretary, that you could walk away from, your corporate lawyer opportunities to host the Bad Faith pod and to do what you believe is more important, like audience sustained work, and then people will still challenge your like leftist ideals constantly, even though you constantly advocate for working class policies, and at the end of the day have never supported a policy that I think would be detrimental to the working class at the behest of the opulent, right? Or like the, Harvard alumnus that apparently you think that she schmoozes with, right? But I mean, the Revolutionary Blackout Network, excuse me, Jesus Christ, I'm getting tongue tangled. The Revolutionary Blackout Network loves to take cheap shots at people like that. Like I remember they couldn't call us PMCs because we're broke as fuck, so they were calling us like the air conditioned left. I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm an aristocrat because I fucking have air conditioning on at my apartment. Like, okay, that's fine. If that's your only argument, like I'll take it. Like I don't have a Harvard degree. You can't call me high class society, right? But okay, I'll take it that I turned my air conditioning on this summer when it was 100 degrees outside.
Right. It's absolutely ridiculous. And again, it's okay to disagree with Brianna Joy Gray. Like we've disagreed with Brianna Joy Gray. We disagree with people all the time, including friends of the show. And we do so in a civil and respectful manner. But just to straight up misrepresent their opinions and to lie about their stance on an issue, in my opinion, is unacceptable, especially towards someone who's shown you nothing but grace, nothing but solidarity, nothing but absolute support. Yeah, exactly. So it's crazy to me. But either way, let's take a look at the video in question. We can watch at least part of this. It's pretty funny, I will say. I was telling Zach I lost some brain cells in the process of watching this. But yeah, we can take a look here and break down just how dishonest they are being in the process of accusing Briahna of dishonesty.
Yeah, well, you know what they say: burn too many brain cells down to be worried about some brain cells now.
Yeah, exactly.
What I'm saying is that as leader of the left, we also have an obligation to explain what it will take to do that. So just hypothetically speaking, if we had a candidate who ran in the Democratic primaries, who used the approach that we have used, which is a fighting strategy, bringing up demands like Bernie Sanders, but then unlike Bernie Sanders, not just falling in line to support Biden or whoever else becomes the anointed nominee, for the coronation, but instead said, this is rotten. In fact, this is the Democratic Party is not on our side. We need to fight independently, and then I'm going to run as independent in the general election. And coming out of the election, I'm going to launch this organization that can go on fighting. If we had something like that, of course, I welcome that. My position is not that we should not have that. All I'm saying is I don't see it on the horizon.
So Marianne has she said in this Vanguard interview that she would do a dirty break.
That's a bold-faced lie. That's a bold-faced lie. She did not say that whatsoever. And I'll bring it up in just a second.
To that moment, and
we already played it where she did say that, guys. For the record, if you just start tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. In no way is that a bold-faced lie. It's just ridiculous right out the gate. Complete dishonesty. Complete dishonesty. No charitability whatsoever when talking about a comrade who's just trying to facilitate a discussion. Brianna's not doing propaganda for Marianne Williamson. She's not telling her audience to go vote for Marianne Williamson or go give her money or anything like that. She's just saying like, hey, the other day, Marianne Williamson was on a podcast, our podcast, by the way, and she mentioned that she would be interested in doing a dirty break. She said that, that's what Trump did. And, that was a good strategy on his part. So now Brianna's referencing that in a conversation about Marianne's potential presidential run. There's nothing dishonest about that. It blows my mind that I have to say that. But yeah, there's nothing dishonest about that framing whatsoever. It's crazy.
Getting triggered because Vanguard's name got dropped.
Yeah, honestly, though.
So Marianne she said in this Vanguard interview that she would do a dirty break.
That's a bold-faced lie. That's a bold-faced lie. She did not say that whatsoever.
She literally.
I'll bring it up in just a second.
To that moment, and Marianne was like, "It depends on how the party treats me. If they treat me well, then I will abandon the movement and support the Democratic Party." To me, when I reacted to that moment, that was our last live stream. I literally said that was one of the worst answers she could have gave. Literally one of the worst answers she possibly gave about that. If he said, "If the Democratic Party that we know is corrupt, that we know is imperialist, that we know is capitalist, that we know is horrible on human life, if they just nice to me, then I tell you vote for them." You got these.
And it's not about being nice to her. The point she was making and the point I was making is that if they treat you unfairly, if they rig the process against you and the movement you represent, then you threaten to break away and run third party. That's the strategy. I think everyone understands that. It's not just about her personal fees or some, petty bullshit like that. Like, obviously that's a mischaracterization of what Marianne Williamson was saying.
And also, she was saying that she was going to wait until she had explicit evidence of the wrongdoings that they had done, which was surely going to emerge, right? Like, she's not an idiot, guys. She's a super smart woman. She, she, she understands they're going to fuck her over. Of course they are. That's why she said that she was, considering, how will they treat me? It's a matter of hasn't abandoned the idea of winning over any Democratic voters because she actually wants to make a difference. Okay. She still wants to be able to reach some of those people. So if she does come out here and say, of course, the Democratic Party is so corrupt and in shambles and all this stuff, why aren't you running third party now? What she is doing is she is building up the steam. She is going to get the exposure and the media attention of competing in the Democratic primary. There will be the back speculation of will she run third party or won't she, but it won't be so much in the front of the conversation that she can't get on the debate stage, that they fuck her over even more than they're already going to, right? Like, let's not create problems for ourselves before they arise. And then that way, when she does break away, she can say explicitly X, Y, and Z were the explicit, wrongdoings performed by this private corporate entity that does not represent the democratic will of the people. I am running to represent the democratic will of the people, and I will be doing it under this banner, and I will not let the movement die out. I will let the movement exist beyond me and with a purpose, and we are directing it here. Like, that would be a generous interpretation of what she was saying. I don't know I don't know how you have to spin that in your brain to think that what she's saying is that she's just going to capitulate to the Democratic Party machine. She's 70 years old and she's never run for office before. Why would she just run to go be a part of the machine? She's already not an aristocrat, right? But she's made a bunch of money so she can fucking make her own money. And she's never walked away from her commitment to, left-wing politics. Or left-wing issues, rather, because I would say that she wasn't political, but she still was an issue-based individual.
Exactly. Yeah, so I guess we can watch some more of this.
It's about her instead of the movement. That was her answer, which I thought was atrocious. So let's continue.
Yeah.
She said they asked her that question specifically, and she said that when Donald Trump was asked that in the context of the 2016 Republican primary, he said, whether or not you were going to support the eventual nominee. He says, it depends on how you treat me. And left that threat looming in the air.
You see how that's a Trumpian answer? Which is a move that we like, the strategy-wise, we need that. But he did, he's all about me. I don't give a fuck about any ideas. That was Trump. He didn't give a fuck about ideas. He wanted to be president.
And obviously, once again, just completely intentionally mischaracterizing what Marianne Williamson was saying. Obviously, Trump didn't give a fuck about the people or any movement. He gave a fuck about himself, obviously. And obviously, that's not what Marianne meant by referencing Trump's strategy. She was saying that as a left, as a progressive movement, we need to bring to the table some of that disregard for the establishment and for civility politics and for the rules, quote unquote, that Trump brought to the table when he ran for president in the Republican primary in 2016. That being said, no, I'm not running because I am a proud Republican. I'm running because the Republican Party is the most viable vessel for me to use in order for me and my ideas to succeed in this election. That's Marianne's point. She's saying, fuck the Democratic Party. I don't give a shit about them. I don't give a fuck about their rules. I don't give a shit about their civility or anything like that. I will use their infrastructure in order to popularize my message and the agenda of my movement. But when push comes to shove, I have no regard for their rules. I'm not going to be polite to them. And the left does need to bring some of the energy to that table. They absolutely should embrace that sort of disregard for the establishment.
100%.
So for him, it was it's depending on how you treat me. I don't give a fuck about taking this whole shit. Then we don't need that energy on the left. It's about you. You do what's best for the movement, even if it means you lose your DC contact. Even if Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and the election observers was kissing your ass, even if they gave you shiny reviews in every interview, you still said, fuck you, I'm with the people. According to Marianne, she's gonna say she with the establishment, as long as they not to her, they can treat us like garbage, like they do. But she don't care, as long as they treat her nice. That's a horrible answer. Watch the interview. She says that. Watch it.
Bro, I think that it's so funny that the entire premise of Nick and CJ's argument right here is that we're like all putting words in Marianne Williamson's mouth, and then they have these like super far off interpretations of everything that's coming. She's telling you she's going to sell out your entire movement, bro, that she's just in it to become a career climber. She's trying to be the next Nancy Pelosi, bro. Like, that's not at all what she said. She was saying that, like, she actually very coyly and in a I thought a great answer was like, do you remember Donald Trump? Do you remember how this guy said, fuck you, you're not fucking me? Like, that's the energy that we've all said we need on the left. He even says, Nick, in this fucking clip right here, he's like, I like that energy, but only because you said you're only going to do it for you. Donald Trump only did it for him. It's like, no, she's not. She's literally going to do it for the movement. That's her whole thesis. That's her whole theory. That's why she's running for president.
Yeah, it's just disgusting dishonesty, if you ask me. Just straight up dishonesty, which is, again, ironic considering that they're accusing Brianna of being dishonest.
Go ahead, CJ.
But he was going to run independently if he was pushed out of the Republican primary. Now, obviously he won, and so we never like tested that theory. But, you know, knowing that, does that change your opinion about Marianne's run? And moreover, are you really
Like,
No, not at all. Just to answer the question quickly, not at all.
saying that but for someone willing to do a dirty break, you don't think there's any utility for the progressive movement from a messaging standpoint and having a progressive run in a Democratic primary?
I think it's a question of you know, in on balance, what gains we can get. I mean, as I said before, of course, there were gains made just in terms of building the confidence of voters with having a campaign like Bernie Sanders. But on balance, what happened? On balance, people ended up getting demoralized because there was nothing that came out of it. And as a matter of fact, a lot of young people ended up getting. Sorry.
Is that a
Can we
dog?
pause it for 1 second? I think it's a misnomer to say that, you know, oh, people ended up demoralized. Like, of course they did. We were all demoralized after the Bernie Sanders movement, but that's because it disappeared, right? Those ideas that he popularized are still just as popular, if not more popular now than they were when he first ran for president, and then they were more popular again when he ran for president in 2020. And even if you go to Fox News polling, okay, and you look at things like Medicare for all, you look at things like a Green New Deal, and you look at things like not just 15 guys, but sometimes $18 and $20 an hour. If you look at these things, way above water in all 50 states, and sometimes they'll approach like 73% approval ratings with young people, right? That is a massive change. We can't pretend that was nothing. Like, we're just going to wipe that under the table. Like, decades of progress were made, at least in terms of public opinion, with those two presidential runs that happened over a 4.5, 5-year window. Okay. So I think to just sweep that under the rug and be like, oh yeah, of course that was something, but like really, it was all these other things that really mattered. It's like, not really, because those other things didn't work for shit until there was so much more attention on it from Bernie Sanders. And I totally agree. He fucking dropped the ball. He shit the bed. He hung us out to dry. He sold us down the river, whatever kind of verbiage you want to use, when he did not run as a third-party candidate and do a dirty break. That's why we're making this suggestion to you all now that we get behind Marianne Williamson, because she has the fucking balls to.
Right. And she's suggesting that she's open to the idea and that she thinks it's a good idea. Like, I don't know what else you want. Sometimes you have to take yes for an answer. She's literally saying that she'll at least consider, if not just straight up do the thing. And Brianna's just asking completely reasonably, hey, Marianne Williamson said this. What do you think about it? But somehow it's a bold-faced lie to bring it up, which is, you know, an insane mischaracterization, like I said. And the attacking didn't stop there. As you guys also know, Brianna Joy Gray recently interviewed Vosh on Rising about Andrew Tate. You know, I don't even think it was her decision to bring Vosh on. But either way, Vosh was on the Hill's Rising to discuss Andrew Tate with Robbie and Bree. And then after that discussion, Brianna Joy Gray reached out to Vosh in order to have a conversation about a variety of things. And it sounds like it was more of a debate than a conversation. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll cover it tomorrow on the show, by the way. So everyone make sure to subscribe for that. But yeah, as Brianna says here, she had a 3-hour-long conversation with Vosh about defunding the FBI, force the vote, left media infighting, the doomer left, and more. And again, it sounds like this was probably, definitely pretty It sounds like it was a debate, right? It doesn't sound like she just had him on to lob softballs at him. It sounds like they got into a lot of areas of disagreement here. However, here's CJ from RBN saying Vosh is an SNL character. This is like bringing on Santa Claus. What does that even fucking mean, first of all? Okay. So first the nonsense on bad comedy straight up. First the nonsense on today's episode pushing Marianne, and now this clown shit. So just having on Vosh to discuss your areas of disagreement somehow is clown shit. And also, again, characterizing the discussion about Marianne as nonsense pushing Marianne, which is just not what happened either. But yeah, just again, completely uncharitable, completely uncomradely to someone who's been nothing but supportive to you, someone who's, been nothing but kind to you, and receptive to your ideas.
Yeah, and I don't know if you watched Vosh's stream where he went live the night after he recorded Bad Faith, but he goes into it a little bit and talks about what they talked about, and he's like laughing into the camera, being like, "It gets spicy, boys. It gets spicy in there, fellas. It was a spicy conversation," which to Vosh means obviously they shouted. He was like, "It was a good conversation. We rolled it back. We were able to start it up again and whatnot." But yeah, they were vehemently disagreeing for what I imagine. I mean, you don't go into a 3-hour long podcast usually unless you're like homies. Usually a 3 to 4 hour podcast is like for debates. Like you have a lot of ground to cover. And I think it'll be interesting, especially because I think they mostly cover domestic issues. Vosh said they didn't get into Ukraine or Russia at all, which it was something that I was kind of interested to wondering if they would broach. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting view of seeing just how different Vosh and Brianna Joy Gray's domestic policy views are, because I think they're more similar than a lot of people in their audiences would think. And so good to see them reach out to each other and see where they have common ground. And what's so crazy about this is like CJ's getting pissed off that Bria's even having this guy on to debate. Like, weren't you guys just cheerleading? I bet you I could find an RBN clip of it be like Jackson Hinkle destroys Vosh or like, whatever. Like, and like Nick went on to debate Vosh, but like, oh, why is it different when you guys do it? Or why is it different when Jimmy goes on and has a super friendly conversation with Iraq war supporter Tucker Carlson? You guys don't ever call him that. Everybody else is responsible for the shit they did 25 years ago. Like David Sirota worked at AIPAC when he was 19 years old, right? But Tucker Carlson supporting every single fucking war until like 5 years ago. No, he's an anti-war. He's based, bro. MTG's based. Like fucking insane fucking shit.
Yeah, and just to be fair, they do call out Tucker Carlson. I think they just put out a video calling out Tucker Carlson, but they never call out Jimmy Dore
for going on
there. But when Brianna Joy Gray dares to have a conversation with Vosh, it's somehow clown shit and worth smearing her over. When, as you said, Zach, Nick from RBN has himself debated Vosh. By the way, that was super embarrassing for Nick. No offense. But
even Nick said he got triggered back when he was still friends with us. He gave us an honest analysis on our show.
Yeah, it was a dog shit performance. Just saying. But yeah, so somehow your own co-host, he's allowed to talk to Vosh and debate Vosh, but then when Brianna Joy Gray does it, it's clown shit. It sounds like you're just salty, bro. And this is the mentality I hate more than anything. We talked about this the other day, and you see this all the time from the Jimmy Dore left. If you talk to anyone outside of their ideological bubble, outside of their echo chamber, it's cause for uncharitable smears, criticism, and just getting salty and triggered about. Like, I hate that shit. Like, I will talk to whoever we want, and anyone should be able to talk to whoever they want. I just hate this mentality where it's like, oh, you talk to someone outside of my ideological bubble, then you're a shit lib or you're a clown. It's like, no, she had a reasonable conversation with someone that she disagrees with on a bunch of stuff and probably agrees with on some other stuff. Like, that's what adults do. Get the fuck over yourself.